Dune Awakening is in some serious freaking trouble. From the true war of assassins, conflict of the PvE versus PvP, to the exploits that are absolutely cratering the price of spice, to the desperate need of some quality of life improvements. And don't even get me started on the bug fixes. The barrage hitting Dune Awakening's dev team feel like the odds are stacked against them. But we don't even know the beginning of it. There are servers that exist that are so distorted, disrupted, and diseased, I can't even fathom that the players that exist there are even playing the same game as us, where carriers hit warp speed, getting one tapped while you're in your base, to sub-thieves being destroyed through walls, the stolen Ornithopter graveyards, to wall hacking, aimbotting, you name it, Dune Awakening has it. But come on a journey as we go through the proliferation and absolute mayhem of the most hacker-infested servers in all of Dune Awakening. The journey begins not within the deep desert, but we're trying to verify this photo from Reddit. It is infamous, the graveyard of Ornithopters. You've all seen the footage. In fact, here's an example right now. Go to deep desert, you load in, boom, hacker's there waiting, jumps in, flies away. Imagine you're on a spice field, going about your business, just collecting some of that sweet, sweet spice, and through the darkish purple cloud, a figure appears, jumps into your Ornithopter, hijacks it, and shoots off at 1,000,000 miles an hour. This is only a hint to the reality of what is happening out there. And thanks to some very carefully crafted intel across some of the Asian servers, we actually found where this base is located. So here it is on Reddit. And then here it is in the flesh. This base has been here for over a week. No deletion, no consequence. In fact, even just hanging around here in Hager Basin, see the very hacker that owns this base who stole all these Ornithopters. The hacker has no shame in using speed hacks, even within Hager Basin. It's so blatant, nearly everyone is doing it. And if you're wondering what is the most notorious hacker server, all you have to do is go into Reddit, start looking at anything with hacker in the title, and more than likely, it's going to be Bifrost. This world is beyond saving. The market is completely mucked up. You legitimately can sell some stupid, silly schematics that are worth nothing on majority of servers for hundreds, if not millions of Solari. Even Spice Melage has absolutely crated, selling on average for about 1,000 Solari, going as far as to 200, 100 Solari due to the onslaught of duplications and hackers having unmatched access to the deep desert. I mean, it's completely backwards. Everyone speed hacks. It's an absolute nightmare. But it gets so much worse. But for instance, let's say you want to go into the deep desert. Well, hold your horses. Not a simple matter anymore. You have to organize your group, put together the shittiest scrap Ornithopter you can, get one person to fly through. You'll get to the other side, you'll start looking around, double checking around corners or anywhere a hacker might hide. If the coast is clear, you can radio in while watching the entryway to let your other members in. The hacker's there, you gotta try another spot and repeat the process. And that is just to get into the deep desert. A protocol that you always must follow, as you'll get bitten over and over again if you don't. And that is exactly what we had to do when I got into the server. And a quick shout out to the legends that have been fighting hackers since week 1, who graciously lent me an Ornithopter and gear, let us all soak in the absolute bloodbath of disparity that is Asian Bifrost server. So big thanks to Dezzu, Chong, and Hween. You can watch these guys in action on Dezzu's YouTube. Subscribe, like it, get amongst it. Some great stuff. So we made it. We've jumped into the deep desert. The first thing we have to get blown away by is their deep desert base. Now, I can't show you the sub-thief, but I can tell you now, you'll never freaking find it. I've seen some crafty things on games before, but these guys have really had to take it to a whole new level. Now, this base that we're in and we're exploring right now, the vast majority is actually built underground. And when you see walls, there's pretty much 15 walls on either side where possible underground. Bit hard to explain, but it's an absolute labyrinth with layer upon layer upon layer. And they have to do this in order so that the hackers can't steal from their chests through the walls, which can happen in Hager Basin, where they've had to completely change their strategy and design their bases completely different to anything you would experience on a normal server. So if you're ever in a scenario where you log into DD and somehow your chests are empty and there's no clear entry into your base because you're building them too close to the wall. Now, unfortunately, things have gotten so much worse on this server. At the time of recording this, hackers can now destroy the sub-thief using wall hacks that will paint a target, highlight it, and they can snipe not just the sub-thief through rocks, through walls, but they can also kill you in your base, in Hager Basin, and in the deep desert. Absolute absurdity, but it only got really bad just after that last patch where they introduced the changes to the deep desert in the PvE zone. It's gotten so bad now that these guys that have survived in the deep desert for weeks with hackers have now decided to either quit or leave, as there's literally no way to exist on the server anymore, as the hackers will just come by, snipe them through the walls. But all this came after the start of this video. So with a quick pit stop at the base, we're off into the deep desert. Quite literally only took 2 minutes before we found our first hacker. We're going to switch over to Hween's perspective, as they were all recording their own screens, and I'll try and enhance the video, but you can only just see the teleporting and speed hacks of the carrier, and I'll try zoom in as much as possible, but we just got so lucky with spotting this guy. Now these guys reckon this hacker is the one from Hager Basin that we saw earlier, so finding this guy was a big deal. And what is bonkers is that it really is just by chance that we see it. But you can clearly see, I'll try slow it down, emphasize it, but you can clearly see just here where he turns around and he sees the carrier take off from behind the rock at warp speed. Now the carrier is carrying that's a tongue twister. It has a buggy that it's carrying around. And I'll just go into a little bit about how we didn't get spotted by the hacker. The hackers will have a wall hack and a radius. And since we were so far off the periphery, the hacker could not spot us or did not see us. The trouble with having the wall hacks on is that you're going to see names within a certain vicinity, which you can toggle and config depending on what you want. So if you set it too high, you're just going to see names all over the place. You set it too short, you won't see much. And there's a good chance he just had them toggled off. But the main tactic here is just to get as much height as possible, swoop in because you're out of render distance, and hopefully they're not inside the vehicle. And we got insanely lucky as both of them had jumped out, and it was just perfect timing all around. Because as soon as we're detected, that carrier speeds off. But you can see here, I was able to take the guy out of the buggy. The other 3 legends hit that carrier so hard and then jumped out and just las-gunned it as quick as possible. And that was just hacker 1 within no time at all. So we made sure we toasted the buggy. The carrier was completely wrecked. It was a glorious win. It only took a minute for the hacker to return, and he was trying to recover his carrier. So he flies in at warp speed, jumps out, quickly backs up his vehicles, and we were just barraging the carrier, hoping that we would take him out. But he did not seem to sustain much damage at all. As we keep firing, he's still there, and you will see him very soon jump out and jump into his Ornithopter and just take off instantly. And there he goes. You can see, look at those speed hacks. You can't hit him. Now, what is interesting and what I didn't realize is that it's also very difficult for them to hit you as well with moving at that speed. But a lot of the players that are hacking aren't very good at this game at all. They're terrible. But you do come across some of the hackers that are much more proficient and can sort of toggle it on and off and hit targets quite well. This guy just could not hit us, but he's also just flying around so fast, he could not control it. But look at him go, like it's an absolute warp speed, Mark 20, just flying around. There's nothing we can really do. We can't really harass him. So after some mucking around, some repairing, day was breaking, and as we were flying around, it didn't take us long to run into another freaking hacker. And I swear it felt like everyone was hacking on this server. So we just enter sector H5, flying around, and we spotted one of the hackers. Now this guy was sitting here, looks like they were harvesting some spice, and you'll see him zoom around. Now this is a different hacker, he's in a different Ornithopter, different color, but look at him go. You can just get a good idea of what kind of craziness you're dealing with here. So whenever you come across him, you can't really do much about him when they're in the Ornithopter. Then we had this guy who was pretending to be a normal Ornithopter, but as soon as we started just doing a few couple shots to test to see if it was a hacker, he instantly turned on his speed hack. But what was brilliant was a storm came through, and we were able to raid 3 of the hackers' bases, and then claiming them was sub-thieves, and boy oh boy did we hit a jackpot. There was one base that was absolutely stacked with titanium, ore, others with vehicle parts and spice. But what's interesting about the servers in Asia is that there doesn't seem to be huge guilds. There are little pockets of hackers, and things that would fly on our servers is completely backwards on these other servers. You constantly get these random guys just flying in with no care in the world, like they're expecting no one to attack them. And it seemed very, very strange. But talking to the guys, they believe that the hackers offer protection in certain areas, some sort of way of exchanging something, because this kept happening. I mean, there was this one guy where there's a whole battle going on, and he's still just running outside his base, trying to mine titanium, almost like he's a bot. and he couldn't register what was going on. So to me, there looks like there is elements of botting, definitely so many different hacks. And the whole experience was just so surreal. Nothing made sense on this server. From the randoms that would fly into a battle as if completely oblivious that it's happening, to the speed hackers, to then getting into some ground combat. As we were raiding all these hackers' bases, thanks to that glorious storm that rolled through, we absolutely got to obliterate them, stirring up a hornet's nest. A few of them came out, and after a little bit of back and forth, some stabbing, some gunplay, we got some amazing revenge from the carrier, from taking over some of these bases, to killing hackers in some 1v1. The revenge was wild. The resources and everything we took felt like it was endless. This is only after a couple of hours. It was 2:30 a.m. It was getting time for me to jump off. We didn't get to go to any of the testing stations where you generally find all the aimbot wall hackers, but we're going to play some footage courtesy of Dezzu and the legends that took me out on this Bifrost server. Just to give you an idea, because it's just blatant cheating. These guys will camp outside the entrance as they know a hacker's land, as they've seen the Ornithopter speed hacking to, say, a research center. They can go into these areas completely solo, one tap, pretty much annihilate all the NPCs depending which hacks they have. And there's these guys out here camping out of sight behind this, but the guy knows he's got wall hacks on, so he knows that they're there. And this is just a constant battle that these guys are facing. But in this instance, they get into some ground combat, and they do freaking amazing. Now, there are so many other little strategies and things that I learned from this whole experience, and I might even consider throwing the whole video up, but I'm just going to leave you now with a mixture of various clips and experience people are having with hackers, because we've got to get the word out, and something really does need to be done, because even though these Asian servers were still very populated, the only reason people are on there is because they're hacking. Nearly everyone is. And the guys that aren't really playing anymore. There's no way to exist. I've said this before, but it's gotten so bad to the extent where now you can get killed in Hacker Basin, in the PvE areas. And even when you spawn into Deep Desert, you can just get instant kill and they'll steal your Ornithopter. Now, a lot of this has gone completely on deaf ears. Funcom, at least from all the dudes that I've spoken to, haven't responded, haven't done anything about the guy with the Ornithopter graveyard or the hackers. And this all leans on the way that they are tracking, which they may change in the future, but also how they've built their servers and infrastructure, completely putting it on the client side, asking for this kind of trouble. Now, at this stage, nothing is really changing, but we'll keep laser focused on this. And as things develop and hopefully improve, we'll cover this more and more. Now, my experience on a hacker server was left on a high note, but we're going to end this video on a low note as we watch this poor guy in an assault Ornithopter get absolutely used and abused by a carrier Ornithopter that ends up capturing it, flying it away, killing the dude that was driving the assault Ornithopter. And what are you going to do? Absolute brutal to see these kind of things. But this is the reality on the most hacker-infested servers in all of Dune Awakening. If you got anything out of this, consider liking, subscribing. Goes a long way. Cheers. Peace.